For most of the 20th century, casinos were illegal almost everywhere in America. They were seen as morally corrupt, linked to organized crime, the kind of place that destroyed families and communities. And then, something changed. Today, there are over 1,000 casinos operating across 40 states. Gambling revenue in the US topped $60 billion in 2023 alone. So what happened? How did we go from outlawing gambling to building billion-dollar palaces dedicated to it? Psychologists call this moral reframing, and once you understand it, you'll see why you've been conditioned to accept things you once would have rejected. But here's where it gets even worse. The people who legalized gambling didn't do it for you. They did it because they were desperate. Let's rewind to the 1970s. America was broke. The post-war economic boom had collapsed. Cities were hemorrhaging tax revenue. Infrastructure was crumbling. Politicians needed money fast, and they couldn't raise taxes without getting voted out. Enter Nevada, the only state where casinos were fully legal since 1931, and they were printing money. Las Vegas had become a gold mine. Tourists flooded in. Tax revenue skyrocketed, and other states started asking the same question: why shouldn't we get a piece of that? In 1976, New Jersey was first. Atlantic City, once a glamorous seaside resort, had become a ghost town. Crime was rampant. Businesses were fleeing. The state was desperate for a miracle, so they put casino legalization on the ballot. And they didn't call it legalizing gambling, they called it funding education, revitalizing communities, creating jobs. This is the reframe. You don't sell casinos as casinos, you sell them as economic development. The referendum passed. Atlantic City opened its first casino in 1978. And within a decade, 9 massive casino resorts lined the boardwalk. The blueprint was set. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. It was never really about saving cities. It was about addiction economics. Let me show you how the casino industry weaponized psychology. Casinos don't make money from people having fun. They make money from people who can't stop. Studies show that 60 to 80% of casino profits come from problem gamblers, people who are psychologically dependent. Your brain produces dopamine when you win. That's the pleasure chemical. But here's the trick. Your brain also produces dopamine when you almost win. That near miss. That's not an accident, it's engineered. Slot machines are programmed to give you near misses frequently enough to keep you playing, but not frequently enough to actually pay out. And the longer you play, the more your brain confuses almost winning with actually winning. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes social media addictive. And drug addiction. But casinos took it further. No clocks, no windows, no straight paths to the exit. They pump in pure oxygen to keep you alert. They use specific lighting frequencies to suppress melatonin, the chemical that makes you tired. Free alcohol to lower inhibition. Loyalty programs that track every bet you make and calculate exactly how much you're willing to lose before you quit. This isn't entertainment, this is predatory design. And here's the truth you've been avoiding. Your government knew this, and they legalized it anyway. By the 1980s, states were lining up to legalize gambling. But there was a problem. Most states still had laws banning it. So the federal government found a loophole, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act of 1988. It allowed Native American tribes to operate casinos on tribal land, regardless of state law. The pitch: economic sovereignty, helping impoverished communities. And in many cases, it did help. Tribes like the Mohegan and Pequot built billion-dollar empires. Jobs were created, schools were funded. But here's what they don't tell you. Many tribal casinos are actually run by outside corporations. The tribes get a cut, but the real money, it goes to Vegas-backed management firms. By the 1990s, the floodgates opened. States started legalizing riverboat casinos, a technicality that allowed gambling as long as it was on water. Except the boats didn't actually sail, they were permanently docked. Some were eventually just built next to rivers and called riverboats anyway. Then came urban casinos, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and finally, online gambling. In 2018, the Supreme Court struck down the federal ban on sports betting. Within 5 years, 38 states legalized it. Now you don't even need to go to a casino. You carry one in your pocket. Gambling companies spend $1.5 billion a year on advertising. They sponsor your favorite sports teams. They're in your podcasts, your YouTube ads, and they all end with the same meaningless disclaimer: gamble responsibly. Here's what they don't show you in the commercials. Gambling addiction rates have doubled since 2018. Over 2 million Americans meet the criteria for severe gambling disorder. Suicide rates among problem gamblers are 15 times higher than the general population. And the states that legalized casinos to save their budgets, most are still broke. Because gambling revenue doesn't replace lost tax income, it just creates new problems that cost even more to fix. Addiction treatment, social services, bankruptcies, crime. So here's the mental trick that actually works. Casinos weren't legalized because they were good for you. They were legalized because governments ran out of money and needed you to voluntarily hand it over. The house doesn't always win because of luck. The house always wins because the game was rigged from the start. Most people will watch this, nod, and then download a betting app this weekend. They'll tell themselves they're just having fun, that they're in control. That's what the reframe does. It makes you think you chose this. Don't be most people.